Welcome to Mission Oriented, a veteran crowd podcast that showcases veteran talent from both the private and public sectors. Their impact is everywhere. We are here to uncover it. Here's your host, Bob Louthen.
Well, welcome everybody. This is the Mission Oriented podcast on the Veteran Crowd Network. My guest, an old friend of mine today, Todd Connor, is a United States Navy veteran. He is one of the founders of Bunker Labs and also at the forefront on some political innovation with Veterans for Political Innovation. Todd, great to have you back. Thanks for being on the program.
Thanks, Bob. Awesome to be with you as always.
Todd, not to tie this too much to a particular date, but, we are coming up on the midterm elections. I found myself in the past, a couple of things. One, angered by the intrusiveness of all of the noise surrounding an election. And the second thing, the negative attack ad approach. I know, the only thing I know about the candidates is that the world is going to come to an end if they lose and the other person gets in, is typically the messaging. Let's talk a little bit about the mechanics of the solution, but more importantly, maybe what some of the desired outcomes or the results that these changes might produce.
Yeah. Let's start with the goal. The goal would be that voters are incentivized and excited to participate. They go to the polls because they like the options. Like, just think about how radical that is. They go to the polls because they like the options.
The last time I went, I was voting against a candidate,
As we all do. And so our goal is people are participating more and they are excited by the options, and they actually struggle to choose between options. And this isn't pie in the sky stuff. New York City did their last mayoral election using ranked choice voting, and there was like lots of choices. Now, most of them were Democrat, but there was choices within the Democratic Party that voters in New York City could choose between, and they chose Democrats or chose a moderate Democrat amidst other options.
Virginia used it in the Republican Party to pick its three candidates for statewide office: governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general. And that had a great outcome for the Republican Party.
Because what ranked choice voting does is it forces you, the people that win in those elections have to get past 50% of acceptability. So if your only path to winning in a closed winner-take-all primary, let me back up. In a closed winner-take-all election, it's just whoever gets the most votes. Well, a lot of times the person that gets the most votes gets 30%. And you beat the person that got 28%, and then someone else got 20%, someone else got 14%. So you win that primary, which is a low turnout event, and then you're in a gerrymandered district. So you won your primary with 30%, and now you're going to win the general election because the district's gerrymandered. Just on a numerical basis, it's about 1/14 of the population that got you over the finish line.
Right.
Just not a lot of people. You're not actually operating with the mandate, and so that all changes if you have a ranked choice election in a general election, in which you can choose between five options.
This also eliminates the spoiler effect. I mean, I think back to, I guess it was 1992. Ross Perot ran, Bill Clinton and George Bush Sr. were running, and there was a spoiler effect. It eliminates that as well, doesn't it?
It gets rid of that. And here's something that this is unrelated to politics, but binary decision theory. So this is business school stuff. If you only have two options, the quickest persuasion path is not to advocate for the option you like, it's to talk about how bad the other option is. That's actually just a quicker, cheaper persuasion path, which is why Coke and Pepsi all throughout the 90s led with negative advertising of each other. Which, like, think about that for a second. How ridiculous is it? Because the assumption was everyone's going to drink cola, and the only question for you is, are you going to drink Pepsi or are you going to drink Coke? So if those are the terms of the debate, then it's better for Coca-Cola to go negative against Pepsi, for Pepsi to go negative to Coca-Cola. The minute you have other options, or consumers start saying, well, I actually think I like flavored water, or maybe I like root beer, that whole strategy of going negative falls apart. It's no longer strategic. If there's 3 or 4 or 5 options, you have to actually run a very different strategy to get people to decide something. So this is where when we do nation building, when our own Department of State goes over and helps emerging democracies implement election systems, we always avoid conditions that lead to binary choices. We avoid two-party systems. We avoid.
Very interesting question. I mean, did we do that in Iraq to keep the Sunnis and the Shia from, polarizing it?
We actively work to create multi-party environments, so that you want a healthy decision-making environment creates kind of coalition building. Like there has to be coalition.
Kind of a do as we say, not as we do, almost paradox here.
100%. In fact, we encourage versions of ranked choice voting in foreign elections. 3 of the 10 healthiest democracies have versions of this. Robert's Rules of Orders recommends ranked choice voting as a decision-making mechanism for like executive boards and so forth, executive committees. Because think about it this way: if we said we're taking lunch orders, and there's 12 of us, and there's a menu of options, and here's one way to take a lunch order. Let's say there's 10 people and there's 10 things on the menu. Everyone tell me your first choice. And let's say 3 people want Reuben sandwiches, and that's the number 1 choice with 3 votes. So now we're going to buy everyone a Reuben sandwich. But what if we looked at the second choice and said, hey, everyone prefers as their second choice Cobb salad, Or it turns out everyone as a second choice wants a vegetarian meal. And by the way, 2 people or 3 people or 5 people are vegetarians and are absolutely not going to eat a Reuben sandwich. So as a practical matter, if we were saying building a lunch order, I don't know if this metaphor's holding up or my math holds up. As a practical matter, we'd say, what can we get everyone for lunch that like gets us to wide acceptability? Right. And we wouldn't just say, what's your first choice, and whatever that first choice is what everyone's going to get. So in a governing model, where you're trying to get to consensus for leaders that represent what the majority of their constituents want, it's logical to do it differently than we're doing it today. And a lot of places have already been doing this. This is not new. The Virginia Republican convention does it this way. There, lots of, the Oscars are chosen through a ranked choice voting model. It's in Robert's Rules.
Where is this actually being put into place? There's several states that have actually adopted this process.
Yeah, so here's where the movement is at. There's been an open primaries movement for some time. There's been ranked choice voting movements for some time. The novelty here is really in what we call Final 5 voting, which is putting together those 2 things. So Final 5 voting is a single ballot primary. So Alaska is not doing this. Nevada has a ballot initiative that the voters are going to vote on November 8th, a couple weeks away. Hopefully it passes. This is a big deal. If Nevada does this, then I think it opens the door for other states. Missouri is on our horizon. Wisconsin's on the roadmap. States like Arkansas, Ohio, states that have ballot measures. We're looking at this happening. So I think it's like any
other states
movement.
like Florida, I think, that are not in direct opposition to it.
Lots of states are.
Yeah.
And it's typically the party in power. And this is what's funny is like there's Democrats opposed to it when they are in charge, and there's Republicans opposed to it when they are in charge. But we're seeing movement in states, we're seeing movement in locales. And so the way it works in Alaska or hopefully soon in Nevada, is you go to vote in the primary and there's lots of options. You might see 20 names on a ballot. You vote for your favorite. This is my guy. This is my gal. The top 5 vote getters go to the general. And then in the general election in November, you rank order your preferences. So Bob's my first choice and Mary's my second choice, and Scott's my third choice, and I don't like Todd, so even though he's there, I'm not going to give him a vote. And I also don't like this other woman, even though she's there, I'm not going to give her a vote. So you say, like, this is my first choice, my second choice, my third choice. And if there's someone you really don't like, you don't give them a vote. And if your first choice doesn't win, your vote goes to your second choice until someone gets 50%.
Right.
And so in Alaska,
Instant runoff.
instant runoff. So in Alaska, for example, and it really does not benefit either party. It really does not. And this is just, people want to believe it because, like we've had some things in Alaska and we talk about that. It really, in the long view, does not benefit either party. Who it hurts are candidates that do not have broad appeal. Who it helps are candidates that create broad appeal. Like, that's the incentive. That's what it does. And so in Alaska, you had Sarah Palin lose to the Democrat. So the Republicans are kind of creating a narrative that this is bad for Republicans. It's not bad for Republicans, but Sarah Palin and the other Republican were at each other's throat, and they didn't encourage supporting each other.
They were
because
trying
they
to
didn't
be more extreme, each one of them, probably.
Exactly, because there's like they were campaigning in the old incentive structure. Now, what's funny is if you look at Instagram, Sarah Palin now understands this, and there's pictures of her wishing good luck to the new Democrat. Like, she's acting like a different person because she now understands, because she's going to run again, that she has to have some Democrats say, you know what, she's not terrible, let me give her my second choice vote. And that's the whole point.
The example here in Virginia that I'm familiar with on the Republican nominating, there was Amanda Chase was a fairly extreme candidate running for governor, right? Well, it normalized and smoothed things out, and we got a governor who's more moderate, more appealing. Now, it's not shielded him from attacks from the other side, but it's the first time in a long time that the Republicans have held all three seats, in Virginia. Hey, Todd, let's shift gears for just a moment. How is Veterans for Political Innovation executing on this strategy?
Yeah. So there's a big appetite in the veteran community to help be part of the political solution. They don't want to be partisan, though. And I think this is important. Like, even though you and I go and we pull a ballot for a given party, there is like a system level view that in conversation that we're all having to say, yeah, this isn't working anymore. So what's the solution? So we're building a platform for veterans who want to be part of the solution to show up and say, I think the rules of the game aren't working. We got to change some structural issues to create better incentives and better outcomes. That in some places are, it's in Republican states, Republicans are going to win. In Democratic states, Democrats are going to win over time. Exceptions can happen, but this isn't partisan work. And what we're finding is that a lot of veterans want to get involved because they understand the crisis we're facing is a political one, and therefore it requires a political solution, but they don't want to just show up as partisan actors. And so our mission is a 501c3 is to give a platform for the military community to teach folks that we can in fact do things differently. Most countries do things differently. States can do things differently. We have choices and options about how we do our elections. We do not have to stay stuck in this kind of lesser of two evils reality, that there is in fact a path out. So we're operating by giving veterans a platform. We've got about 140 veterans who've signed up, organized into state chapters. We've got about 30 states on the board right now. We want to be in all 50. And then there are some specific states with bigger campaigns on the ground where we're trying to show up in a bigger way and play a more strategic role. So we have a campaign, like I said, in Nevada, and Mike Escobar is a Marine veteran, outstanding guy. And, he's a registered independent. He's frustrated. And he's like, I want to get involved. He's now featured in the commercials being run all throughout Nevada. And I think if you think about the reform movement for a second, it's full of a lot of political scientists and people that understand election systems and incentives. But what the movement has been missing is the messenger. And I think that's where VPI can play a unique and outsized role. I mean, the value of having someone like Mike Escobar, who's just a really good dude, and has fought for this country, and he's not popping off on Twitter. He's not one of these guys. He's just, he's like most of us. We just want to do the right thing, and we want our country to work. It's not about, I don't want my side to win all the time. I don't want your side to win all the time. We want a healthy balance. We want there to be a free market of ideas and competition, and that's healthy. We don't want to live in existential fear over the next election. So Mike's just, those are his values. And so he's helping to lead and be the face of the campaign in Nevada. And we're doing things like that in Wisconsin, Alaska, Maine, Nevada, and Missouri kind of constitute our hotspots right now. There's a ballot initiative in Pennsylvania to repeal closed primaries. We're helping with that as well. And those are the places where we're kind of going a little bit heavier. And then we're letting veterans just join the platform and say, look, I want to get something going in Virginia Beach or, Arlington, Virginia, or wherever. And we're trying to help just give veterans a calling card to go and meet with elected officials, talk about these issues, and by putting a jersey on that says Veterans for Political Innovation gives them an excuse to go out and have these conversations.
I'm very optimistic about, my home state of Virginia. We've got a good troops on the ground effort going on, led by Mike Cantwell, and Virginia actually, has approved this. Now we kind of got to do the grassroots thing, I think, and work on this, one community at a time. Todd, thank you for being in the program. Thank you for participating in the Mission Oriented podcast. It's always great to catch up with you.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks for all that you do. It's awesome. Appreciate it.
So this is the Mission Oriented podcast. We're going to put links to the book we mentioned. We'll put links to Veterans for Political Organization. I'm involved. I would encourage all of our veteran friends out there to take a look at it and see. This is one of the most level-headed approaches to preserving our democracy that I've ever seen. Thank you, Todd, for doing all of this hard work. You've been listening to the Mission Oriented podcast on the Veteran Crowd Network. That's a wrap. So this is the Mission Oriented podcast. We're going to put links to the book we mentioned. We'll put links to Veterans for Political Organization. I'm involved. I would encourage all of our veteran friends out there to take a look at it and see. This is one of the most level-headed approaches to preserving our democracy that I've ever seen. Thank you, Todd, for doing all of this hard work. You've been listening to the Mission Oriented podcast on the Veteran Crowd Network. That's a wrap.
Thank you for listening to Mission Oriented. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and you won't miss an episode. To learn more about Mission Oriented and the Veteran Crowd Network, visit us at www.veterancrowdnetwork.com.